Hi witches, thank you so much for joining me today. And for today, I have an amazing interview with AJ The Glamour Witch, and she is just incredible. So I am going to stop this part of the video, and we're gonna pop over to our interview. I hope you guys enjoy, and thank you again so much to AJ for coming on the channel. You're just a delight. So bye. All right, I am back. As you guys know, I have a wonderful guest with me today, so I will just let them introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. It's your girl AJ, the Glamour Witch. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, I am so glad that you're here. I am so excited to talk to you today. So you are the Glamour Witch. Could you tell us a little bit about where we can find you online? Just so I'm gonna link everything, but I know you do a lot, so I would love to hear about that.
Yes, absolutely. So you can always find me on Instagram or on TikTok and even on Twitter with the handle The Glamour Witch LA. You know how there's like scammers and stuff out there. So if it ain't that, it ain't me. And then I also have an online shop, theglamourwitch.com, where you can purchase all of my courses and classes as well as products and things of that nature. And then you can also go on Spotify, Apple Music, all the musical platforms and find my music there as well. If you type in Alexis Nicole Jackson, this space will pop up and you can hear some witchy R&B neo soul.
I did not know that you were a musician because my algorithm just shows me like all of your witchcraft
Right,
stuff. So I
right.
just did not put two and two together. And when I was going through like your link tree just to like, make sure that I covered all my bases, I saw that you were a musician. And when I tell you, I like immediately put it on, was like vibing and like writing out these, oh, it's just awesome. And you are so talented. And I'm just so
Thank
grateful.
you. Thank you so much.
So being the glamour witch, could you tell me kind of how you discovered witchcraft and why you practice the way that you do?
Yeah. So, the title is so funny, like, because I originally didn't start with glamour magic. I started, just like exploring all of magic and what that meant to me. And I think I even started practicing Wicca at the very beginning because I wasn't really well informed about all the different sectors of magical practices and things of that nature. But yeah, the name kind of came from somebody complimenting me coming off stage, and they were like, "Girl, you're a witch and you're a singer. Girl, you are a glamorous witch." And I was like, "Ooh."
I love that.
Like stealing.
You're like brand. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, it was a match made in heaven. And then I started to explore glamour magic as well. But I think overall, like, what got me into magic was, as many of us experience, like a spiritual awakening, and typically that comes from a series of unfortunate events. And I lost a lot of people, and at that point in time, prior to me joining the craft, I had been raised very Christian. My mom was a pastor and she has a PhD in Christian theology. My dad's like a Christian relationships
Oh my
coach. So I
god!
was like
Wow.
very, very
I feel like a witch,
indoctrinated.
guys. Sorry.
Yeah, I was like, whew, sorry guys. I mean, most witches are usually the black sheep of their family anyways, if they didn't get raised in that. So, it's not too abnormal, you know what I mean?
Right.
Now I wear that black sheep as a badge, of honor. But I grew up not really understanding my gifts. I always had psychic and clairvoyant and clairaudient gifts, and I was really terrified of them because I knew, one, they made me different, and two, I was experiencing things that nobody could explain to me, and it would freak people out. I remember I was being a little kid and somebody's like passed on loved one would show up and start saying things to me, and then I'd say it. I was a little kid and I would just repeat it, not realizing that I'm talking to somebody who's not in the room. And then everybody would be like freaking out, many times like asked to leave or
Yeah.
whatever. So it did make me kind of afraid of like, what is this? And I grew up in a haunted house as well. So there was always activity happening at all times. And I was literally experiencing my first spiritual warfare of like managing what it was that I was personally feeling, as well as like all the energies in the house. And so all of that finally came to a head, and like I started to discover that when I moved out and moved on my own and moved to Los Angeles. And I don't believe anything. I don't believe in God, witchcraft, because I just was like, everything is BS. And then, and then all of a sudden, unfortunately, 5 people died in my life in a 2-month span. And then they were all visiting me. And I didn't have any type of a connection to like where they went afterwards. And it really just shook me, because I was like, okay, they're gone. But like, because I don't believe anything, where did they go? And also, why am I I'm having dreams. I'm hearing people talk to me. Like, I'm feeling their presence as though they were really there in the space, comforting me, telling me things about how they passed. And also, you know, like telling me like, hey, you're about to embark on something really powerful. You need to acknowledge your gifts, and it's time. And oh my gosh, I wish I would have known this about you when I was alive, because now I can see things on you that I didn't see before. And like, you have a really important story to tell. So just go, and when one person dies after another, it's like, yeah, cool, my gifts are activated, but I'm also grieving and like,
Right.
going through all the normal
that you have to sit through. That's a lot to have to go through. And it seems like you were relatively young when this happened as well.
Yeah, I was probably 19 when that was going on. So
I'm still very young, for sure. Oh my gosh, to be dealing with so much death and like this whole spiritual awakening. I can only imagine how tough that was for you. But oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like what a beautiful I guess gift to be able to kind of understand what's going on. I'm sure that was comforting.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think looking back at the time, in the moment, I probably was like, I'm so tired of all these people coming and visiting me. But then after a while, I started to realize how much of a blessing it was, because I had a layer of protection over me that other people didn't have. And I had an opportunity to help and heal people with that gift. And so then I met a shaman one day in the midst of all of the, emotional stuff. I met a shaman. I went over to my friend's house, and she didn't tell me her mom was a shaman. She just said, come over to the house for margaritas. And then they gave me a tour.
Right?
Right, like midnight margaritas, you know what I mean? And I went over to her house. She gave me this tour. And then the room that they do all their shamanic healing was the last place that we went to. And as soon as I walked in the door, it was like electricity in my body, and everything that I had been holding on to and everything that I had been like kind of trying to avoid emotionally, it just like a dam broke, and I just began to sob. And it was such a deep cry. It felt like I was a baby again. Like even the sound was different. And I collapsed to the ground, and I was just like in a puddle of my own tears and like snot and spit. And the shaman's like, okay, now you can come into the room. And I walk in the room, and it was just the most peaceful feeling that I had ever felt in my entire life. Like I felt like I had finally inhaled, like I had been holding my breath my entire life, and I finally got to take a deep breath. And I was like, what just happened to me? And from that day on, every weekend I would come over to their house, and they would teach me something new about spirituality, crystal meditation, guided healing drum sessions, and candle magic and manifestation, and how to understand signs and symbols of animals and stuff like that. And it was like, it was amazing. And then at some point they were like, okay, now go, like, no more. go off into the world and explore more. And just as one does, I found every little witchy shop that I could go to, and read all the books and did all the spells, and started having results after results after results of things manifesting my reality. I was like, oh my gosh, I figured it out. Like all the answers from my childhood and everything of like why I was experiencing certain things, I finally had an answer for it. And I was like, I can't believe I lived so much of my life without this information, and I survived, because now I this now is like it's embedded in how I problem solve and how I move through difficult times, and even how I rediscover parts of myself, and so glamour magic has been a part of that, but so many other practices as well.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for like sharing such a beautiful story with me. I would never have known that about you. And And I think that is something that is like really beautiful. And I know that there are a lot of people who follow me and who've like, you know, in my DMs have been like, hey, is this normal? And I'm like, I don't know, who have had kind of like those sort of more visceral experiences, like what you're talking about, like the crying and the like that emotional release. I think that is so beautiful, and I'm so glad that you got to experience that. We're kind of guided through that process. That is awesome. That is so beautiful. So I guess my next question is like, how did we go from that person, right, to who was like sad and like experiencing peace for the first time? How does that kind of like tie in with glamour magic? Did that kind of make you more likely to pursue that? And could you tell us in your own words what glamour magic is for you?
Right. So I would say, well, first I'll say this. For me, glamour magic is no different than any other type of magic, because what it really is it's shifting the perspective that we have on things and people, even ourselves around us, to get a emotional response or to change a circumstance, right? And so this is all of magic. Like, we're doing that all the time. We're projecting into this holographic universe that we're living in, and we're changing that hologram. We're getting into the control panels and saying like, no, actually it looks like this. Actually it's going to be like this. Okay, move it around. Okay. And I felt like glamour magic kind of allowed me to step into that. But at first when I started it, I did more use it for helping me to stand in my confidence on stage when I was performing at auditions. And one of the first spells that I created on my own was like a performance spell when I was on stage. So basically when I would go onto stage and the lights would hit me, I would leave my like awareness of Alexis and fully become the character. So there was like a bunch of work that I would do prior to making the story, developing, right, all the stuff you do when you're playing a character. But then I would infuse that in the spell work, and then I would say this chant right before that would activate it, and literally like kind of almost leave my body and kind of be hovering over and be watching her do her thing, and it just allowed me to be more confident in what my lines, right? I wasn't flubbing on my lines. I was like in it, right? It was like just talking. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And people would always tell me like, I don't know what it is that you do before you get on stage, but like something different is happening to you, right? And so I was like, okay, this is working. And it began to kind of trickle on top of itself. And then I think maybe one day I was on I think it was on YouTube or something, and somebody started talking about glamour magic and explaining all the uses for it and all the ways that it can show up. And I was like, I'm already doing that. Like, this is like a natural part of
magic. What are you talking about?
What's going on? It was amazing. And even their version was kind of simplified and really made it focus on beauty and attraction, when I realized and recognized there were so many other elements that you could pull out of it. And so I began to explore that, and it also opened me up to better understanding things like influence and protection and invisibility, and being aware of evil eye and people's jealousy, and how to transmute that and turn it into whatever energy that I want to turn it into, you know what I mean? And getting the right type of attention for the right reasons, highlighting parts of myself, beautiful parts of myself that people might not see, right? In the words that I speak, in the music that I'm making, or even in just like terms of whatever it is that I'm presenting, right? I wanted the true essence of it to be seen. So I would bring it forward and pull it out so that it would be plastered there in front. Like, this is the essence of this thing. And it became such a really powerful way for me to also tap into my personal essence and really own all of me, not just the parts that I think are great, but my shadow, right? And recognizing why it's there and how to use those. And I hate saying darker parts of myself, but like, just the parts of yourself that are meant to be there as a form of protection, but to also bring in balance and harmony. You can't just like,
right,
just love and light your way, into space, right? You gotta be grounded. And sometimes dealing with those and like actually being able to recognize your personal darkness, to not to like dine in it, but also to just understand like what makes me do the things that I do, right? And take ownership for my power, my magic, and to stop being afraid of the parts of myself that are really, very much like showing up right underneath the surface, or whatever the case may be. It made me a better practitioner. It made me a better friend. It made me a better just a human being overall, because I started to recognize the shadow and other people, right? And I also got to be able to speak to the beautiful parts of them and pull them forward and mirror it back to them so that they could see like, yeah, I know you're in your dark place right now, you're going through a lot, or yeah, this quality ain't so cute, but here's what I'm also seeing, and I think that there is a link between these two things. I think one's maybe you're being controlled by one maybe more than the other, but it's here, and it's informed me as a healer. I mean, there's so many places now that it's tapping into that. I think it's always going to be something that's a part of my life and a part of my craft.
Oh my gosh, it seems like this form of magic has absolutely impacted like every part of your life. And I think that when a practice really transcends so much of your life, it becomes like a lifestyle, less and less of like a spiritual practice for me, if that makes sense. Definitely there are, I'm not saying you have to make it a lifestyle in order to be a witch, but I think that it is so inspiring to see people who have found such like peace, it seems, in the practices that especially that you have. And I think that is awesome, and I'm just so happy to see it. And I'm really glad that you were able to find this sense of empowerment and this like magic and joy, because that's what witchcraft has always been to me too. It's been a way to reclaim my power whenever I feel powerless, and also a way to kind of like find balance and rhythm in my life, which is something that I am not accustomed to at all. Very chaotic lifestyle, or not lifestyle, but life in general. So I resonate a lot with you on that, and like your practice reaching every part of your life, which is so beautiful. I love it. Speaking of witchy stuff, do you have any favorite herbs, crystals, or tools that you like to use specifically in glamour magic?
Ooh, man. Wow, so many things. Oh my God, so many things. I'm actually I'm in the midst of a glamour magic course right now.
Oh, cool.
So like I'm also like teaching it and re-engaging with it in its like basic form, like and something that's always embedded in the work that I'm doing is oils, right? I'm always using oils. I'm using aromatherapy, magic. I mean, that's like some of the best ways to be able to kind of pull in attention. People smell you and they're like, oh my gosh, what is that? It does like do something to the brain, and like knowing how to capture people, right? I've always been somebody who's really interested in potion making, so that's something that's really embedded in what I do. A lot of spiritual baths. And then I do work with crystals. I would say crystals now, my practice are more to amplify other parts of my rituals more than it is like something that I'm using, like holding crystals and meditating with them. Not so much anymore. Now it's like they're there to help hold the vibration of whatever I'm creating.
Yes.
And then as far as herbs go, girl, you know what? It's the amount of roses that I use in general in my life is probably an obscene amount. And if there's ever a shortage on roses, that was me. Okay. So anybody knows.
Oh my goodness.
Roses, I took them. Okay.
Yeah,
buy them for me.
I love it. I will be the first. You'll be the first person I call. I'm just like, hey, I know I'm like on the other side of the country. But listen, my herbalist is out, and I just like really need.
So 5-pound bag of roses. Yeah. Got you. Exactly. So I mean, yeah, I would say mostly it's as far as tools go, I think it would probably mostly be oils and potions. I use a lot of that. And then for me now, the practice has turned into a lot of work with, so I have, magical servitors. I work with a lot of angels and stuff like that. And the work that we do is daily. And so it's like meditation. It's also altar work and things of that nature. So it's kind of evolved now past like items, but all my makeup is constantly, I mean, it's all blessed and charged and activated with its own properties. And I'm always finding a way to transform basic things in my house, wash the windows with glamour magic stuff.
Yes.
So that my space feels a certain way, so I can hold the container with that vibration and not have to like pull so much out of myself. It's already kind of set. But yeah, I mean, as far as like herbs go, it's mostly rose and lavender and Queen Elizabeth root, which is one of my favorites for confidence and also like love and empowering female energy or feminine energy within a person. So I really love that vibration. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the tools now are interchangeable, and a lot of the work that I do now is less itemized and more connected spiritually to, you know, meditation or calling in specific spirits and things of that nature.
Oh my God, well, that is amazing. I always like to ask because I know I use certain tools that other practitioners are just like, what are you talking about? Like what, like why? And I'm like, I just thought it was pretty. I don't know why I'm using a fossil as an athame. It's just cool.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's amazing.
I love the orthoceras, like the really long kind of thin ones, and they are just so beautiful and so old and primordial. And when you work with deities that are like, I work with Hecate, who is like kind of the witch goddess. She's more than that.
We know.
But yeah, I use that to like cast circle when I work with her, and people are like, I didn't even know you could do that. I'm like, neither did I. I just tried it and it didn't blow up in my face. So yeah. So that is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think we mentioned before that you are a musician and you use glamour magic in your kind of preparation for performing, which is super cool. And like, I was a theater kid, but I always did like the costume stuff. Like, I went to school for fashion.
I'm a theater kid too.
It was so fun. But being a performer, I never thought about like, or not being a performer, I never thought about prepping myself magically for a performance. That is awesome. Would you say that, I know it seems like, well, not seems, your music has kind of spiritual influence to it. Would you say that, or like, how, I guess, does your spirituality influence your music? And I guess, can songs be spell work in your practice?
Oh yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yes. So of course, like a lot of the ways that I'm able to tap into the story, right? I'm telling a story, I'm creating a vibration, I'm calling certain energies in, is by working with, I work with, like I said before, a lot of angels, and angels are really great energies to work with when it comes to singing. They respond very well to singing. And I find that because that energy is being passed back and forth, like there's a lot of love in that space. And so this last album that I put out, Elixir and Smoke Volume 1, was all fueled by the power of magic, right? Every single song. And I made it during the pandemic, so I didn't have anywhere to go. So I'm sitting at home every day working on these songs.
Your creation.
Oh my God. And they're like becoming these things. And I remember listening back to some of the tracks, and like I'm like recording them in closets and stuff like that, because there ain't no studios like going on in LA. And I just remember thinking, like, how is the sound quality so good? Like I've never like gotten it. It was like almost like the magical energy in the space fine-tuned the vibration of whatever else what I was singing, and cleared away any like ambient noise. Like it was like I was encased. Like the angels really knew what to do to like perfect that. So when I finally was able, when we were off of lockdown, go to the studio and I was presenting it to the producers, they were like, wait, this is not finished? I was like, no, it's not finished. Why do you think I'm here? Like, I need you guys to mix it. They're like, no, this sounds really clean. Like, what's the system that you're using? I was like, I don't know, like some like fruity, I don't know what it was, but I don't have any technical proficient in musical editing. So that's why I knew, I was like, this is really the support of the spirits, because I didn't know what I was doing. I just was singing the songs, and then I would listen back to it and I would be like, whoa, that's me. Like, holy crap. Like what I was saying, even the words, like going back and reading what I wrote was like creating this vibration within me, you know? Some of even the stories that I was telling at the time, and this happens with all of my music, I'll make songs and I won't even really understand what it is, why I'm singing it, because maybe that specific thing isn't happening yet in my reality, and they almost manifest later in my reality as something, right? So, I mean, I feel like
it's almost
one of
oracular. It's like you're almost speaking. That's like right. Channeling these messages into music. What a beautiful gift.
Psychic, like like session, right, where I'm like opening up this portal and this information kind of just comes down. And I think people would say that that's like muse energy, but at the same time it was like very intentional that I was utilizing these angels to help me with music composition and to strengthen my voice and to perfect my unique sound, so that, you know, I was separated from others. And then as far as like the influences, I mean, like, I think all artists are, you know, inspired by their daily life, and I try to make my music at least something that everyone in a certain way could connect to, even if you're not into magic or witchcraft or spirituality or any of that, that there's still a lot there that can influence you or benefit you or make you, you know, bob and weave a little bit, whatever.
Absolutely.
And so it's really important for me to always be in integrity and authenticity with where I'm at personally. So it's easy for me to talk about, you know, I have a song called Florida Water, and it's easy for me to talk about that, you know what I mean? Because it's like, you know, this is how we cleanse, but also what does that mean? You know, like how often we forget to cleanse ourselves. We forget to do that work, the basic work, but then we're calling in all these other things. So the song became this activation, you know, like I'm buying all this Florida water, but the real cleansing is internal, right? And so it's easy to pull from those influences when it's a part of your everyday life. But I would say, yeah, I'm casting spells. So if you're feeling it, it's working. That's all I'm saying.
Love it. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I am in no way musically talented. I played the flute in like the 6th grade.
Okay.
So like, I don't know, like I'd be really good at marching band. But I think it's so incredible when people who are musically talented, like I am just constantly blown away. If you can play an instrument, immediately impressive.
Right.
Or you can sing or anything like that. I'm just like I can't, like, oh my gosh. Of all of these incredible things that you do, is there a practice of yours that you find that you are drawn back to time and time again, or is perhaps your favorite?
Oh man, I
know
really
that's a
love.
hard question.
I know it's hard, but I mean, it's like I feel like I'm repeating myself now. Like I do a lot of magic with angels, and so that is like a really big part of my practice, and it's now become so embedded in the practice because I have such a really strong relationship with so many different types of angels. And what's really interesting too is like when I say like I work with angels, like people are probably thinking like, oh, Archangel Michael, and like, you know, sitting there in meditation with the binaural beats, and it's like that's great, but that's not what I'm talking about. And I'm not talking about that. Or they're imagining kind of like white people with wings, you know, like, you know what I mean? And it's like that's not who I'm talking to. All right, if that's a person that's coming to you, I don't know who that is, but it ain't. It ain't Michael, okay? Because he don't look like that.
Right. They all, if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, the biblically accurate angels, the memes, are those like, I've never really, okay, or it looks like.
Yeah, but they're not, I mean, it's like they have to present themselves and tell you not to be scared because of how they present. And I think a lot of people would also maybe feel like they're demons because of how powerful their energy is and how like it's shocking. It can shake you up a little bit because it's a vibration that you're not thinking is going to present itself like that, and then it does, and you're like, whoa, like this is like a very powerful force. And not that demons aren't also powerful, but it's definitely a different energy. And also angels are not necessarily just like these benevolent creatures. They're also very dangerous, and in some regards I would say even more, I would caution people before working with angels, because it's like if you're not ready for your life to get ripped up from the carpet and everything and redo the cement down to the core, maybe go practice something else. Call your ancestors or something, you know what I mean? But maybe not calling these. And they also think that it's like there are these basic understandings of angels, or like there's only a couple, and there's so many legion of angels and so many brackets, and they all have different capabilities, and some of them do things that would shame the devil, right? Like some of them are able to make people sick, and they're able to take people's whole livelihoods away and make them go crazy. I mean, it's like, woo, you know, it's like
very powerful spiritual beings that I think have been kind of watered down into the Hallmark card that they are today, right? Like we see Cupid on Valentine's Day, but, or, you know, he has like a little winged cherub, but if you look up what a cherub actually looks like in the hierarchy of heaven, not so much, right? Like
crazy. And it's also funny because I find that when you start working with the angels, like they're very much interested in you being very authentic with the reason why you want whatever you want. Like they don't care about your necessary, like they don't always care about like this grander whatever. They want you to be very honest about it because they can see into the core, into the heart of you. And so sometimes they will answer your request, but it'll be in a way that you're not expecting. And they'll be like, well, I know you asked for that, but this is what you actually meant when you were talking. Right. So I'm gonna give you that. And then you're like, wait, that's not actually, that is what I wanted. Thank you so much. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like you not always getting what you want, but definitely always getting what you need. And I appreciate that because it does make you a stronger practitioner. And it also makes you really stand in integrity with what you're asking for. And I find that sometimes working with other deities or other spirits, I find that you could just ask for what it is that you want and they'll just give you exactly that in the literal sense. And sometimes you're like, oh my God, I actually did not want that, right? Like, and they're like, well, that's what you said. That's what you said, you know. And
there's a lesson in the reason that you don't actually want this, so learn it. Like
right. And I feel like angels will give you what you ask for, but if your heart is not aligning with what it is that you're saying, they'll also reveal and expose that to you in the way that it is delivered. It's a really big lesson. I think I've learned a lot of my biggest lessons in the craft from working with angels, and then obviously also to ancestor work. And these things have been the bread and butter, especially when I was like, didn't feel like lighting any candles, I had no incense, I had no herbs left over, everything was a short supply, you know, and I'm sitting in my room and, you know, I just need support, I need love, I need to feel better, right? Or I'm healing. You know, I remember when I got COVID and you know, I wasn't scared because I was like, okay, I have COVID. It's all right. It's going to be okay. Because I got 3 or 4 angels that I know off top will support me through it, through the symptoms and through the end. And if I need to go to the hospital, they will also tell me. And I literally sat down to do one of the rituals and one of the angels was like, oh, you're going to be better in 5 days. So it was a Sunday or like 7 days, something like that. It was a Sunday that I found out that I had COVID and I was feeling it. And by the next Sunday, I was completely clear. And I had barely any symptoms. I'm very lucky.
Oh, like, good. Well, I'm happy to hear that.
I had barely any symptoms and I have a roommate. So he didn't this person didn't even get sick, you know? And I was like, it was like well contained. I was still moving around the house, you know, I wore my mask and stuff like that and didn't want to, you know, transfer it. But you know, it was very contained and I felt safe and protected. And I also always know that if something gets to a point where it's like, now it's time to go to the doctor, like it's time, they're not going to ever advise me to spiritually bypass that, to just do magic instead of seeking the medical assistance that I need. And I respect the hell out of spirits who are like, look, we made medical services for a reason,
right?
Use them, you know? Right. So, yeah, it's just like, it's educational. I feel almost like their direction and their guidance and their support in hand in my workings also humbles me in a lot of ways and reminds me that I don't know shit. And don't be acting like you know what you're doing, because we're gonna smack you if you act like it.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, that was just really funny.
Supportive grandma, you know, or like older uncle that's like, okay, like you're getting good, but don't be getting too big for your britches, you know. And I like that support and I like that energy. That's also confidence building as well. And it's like, wow, okay, well, she's trying to go down this path. All right, let's go. She's trying to open up this can of and it's just a beautiful vibration to carry.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much about your angels and your work with angels. It is definitely something that is foreign to me. I've never worked with that specific type of energy. So it's always really interesting to hear from other practitioners about how like they interact with different spiritual beings. I'm always so fascinated by it. So thank you so much for being so candid and open about that. I guess as you have worked through your practice, what is like one of the biggest lessons you've learned? And do you have any advice for anybody who's new or maybe interested in learning more about spirituality, is just like a little confused?
Yes. I actually have a video of like all the things that I wish someone would have told me. I think now like the three main things that I would say in terms of like things that I'm realizing are really important is, one, you don't have to share everything that you do in your practice with everyone. And sometimes it's probably a better idea not to share, because people are not meant to understand the ways that spirit is showing up in your life. Whatever your spirit guides, your ancestors, your angels, whoever it is that you're working with, they're not meant to understand it because it's for you, right? And this is not to say that you should be disrespectful to cultures or different practices or spirits. But if you are participating in something and you don't have to share that with anybody. Like, a lot of people spend a lot of their lives hiding their magic age right now, where everybody wants to be like an influencer, a witchy influencer. And that there's nothing wrong with that, but it does leave you open to a lot of attack and scrutiny and people trying to tell you that your practice is wrong, or, you shouldn't use that herb, or, whatever the case may be. And some things you just don't need to share, right? I share the things that I'm teaching, and I might share a couple things here and there, but there are a lot of things that I won't share. And privacy, I think, is important to preserving your magic and keeping yourself safe spiritually, right? I would also say that remember that you also are an altar. As much as we have all the accoutrements and all the crystals and all the things, and I love it. I'm the first one to tell you that I love the things, right? I mean, it's very human for us to want the things. But if you are not placing offerings at your altar inside of you and doing the internal work, you're going to be so frustrated when things don't manifest the way that you want to. You're going to be so frustrated, and you lighted 100 money candles. All the green candles in the shop are being lit, and you ain't got a dime, right? You know what I mean?
Hey, you just like called me the fuck out, dude. Firstly, like I'm already tearing up at the statement, like treat your like you are an altar. I was like, oh my god, I am. You're right. You're so right. And then you're like, just like, and then all those prosperity workings. I'm like, fuck. So
anyway. I'm guilty of it too. I love me a green candle. I love me a candle. But it's like, a lot of the work that we love to skip are the things that require us to go in and explore, where we have left ashes and debris on the altar, of our internal space, and where we've left a, pot of roses that are now withering. Like, we need to refresh that, or that cup of water has evaporated now. Like, we need to be filling back up our cup, or maybe we need to be exploring new ways of engaging and loving and praying and affirming within ourselves. And we've gotten stagnant in these practices, like revamp. It's okay to not feel great. It's okay to like have those moments. But if you're constantly seeking to treat yourself as the altar, you're going to place it there first. And then you're going to allow that to show up physically in your reality and, actual activities and actual spells and rituals. Because I find that there is a disconnect, and people start the craft and they just think it's the herbs that are making the money come in, it's the crystals that are making it come in, and they get really frustrated, or they may have success but it doesn't last, or it doesn't hit as hard as they had expected, right? And it can be really draining and daunting to keep going on and feeling like what am I missing? Why is this not working for me? So just remember that you're the altar as well, and probably the most important one. So take care of yourself, And then the last thing would be, don't give your power away to social media influencers, us, me, you, and
Correct.
any person online who is teaching you. Like, we have a lot of wisdom to offer you and inspiration and tips and tricks and things that we experience, whatever, but don't give your power to us. You know, we're not gods and goddesses and these all divine beings. We're human beings as well. And this also allows for you to recognize that you see the greatness and the power and the inspiration and all these things in us. It's being mirrored back to you and personified in us, right? So it's available to you, right? If you can see it, it means that it's available within you. And it's like, I directed, your internal self directed you to this person so that you could see what it looks like when that thing is lived out loud, right? So don't rob yourself of, you know, the exploration of your own inner guidance by constantly seeking validation or, you know, whatever tips or guides or whatever. Like, explore your own, you know, basically follow your heart and really trust in your own ability to find what works for you, because I think it also too dehumanizes us as creators, because now we're held to such a high standard. And I think anytime you start to become an influential person, you do have to take on that responsibility. And it's a part of having a large following or having a lot of success. But at the same time, we're still human beings, and we also deserve to make mistakes. And there's going to be things that you don't agree with in our practice, and you can still love our content and love us and be like, I don't fuck with that, right? And it be okay, right? And when you've given people a chance to be human, you don't get upset when they do things that maybe don't align with you. Just recognize like, oh, okay, well, that's not where I'm operating, but I still vibe with this person. So don't give all of yourself away to us, because at the end of the day, like, we also don't know you, right? A lot of us, we've never seen you and never will see you ever again. And let's just be 100%, you're not seeing all of who we are. Like, there's just no way. There's no way to share all of ourselves online, and nor should we. Like, there should be a level of personal privacy to protect ourselves and to allow us to have our own lives, right? So just know that when you're watching these videos, we're not better than you. We just did the work and we did the discipline, and we've gained this recognition and success because we stayed consistent. And that could be you too. So, you know,
I love that, because I feel that to my core, because I never want to come across as though I am dictating anything to anybody. So I try to impress, and hopefully I have, like, hey, here's what I do, here's how I celebrate this holiday, here's how I worship this deity, and here are my resources as to why I do things this way. But this is how I do it, me. Then I know that's very self-centered, but it's my practice. So exactly. You know, it's not necessarily your practice or someone else's. So who am I? Who am I to have the audacity to be like, oh, well, you're not connecting with that deity properly. If it works for you, then you know what? And if it's like respectful and, you know, like just if it's helpful, then I encourage people to seek the things that bring them joy, bring them peace, and bring them just healing. Because I think we all have gone through stuff in our lives, and especially people who gravitate towards earth-based spiritualities, witchcraft, Wicca, kind of like these alternative religions or paths, have probably gone through a greater deal of trauma or stuff like that. And it's not, I'm not saying we're all traumatized, but I know I am.
I mean, if you live on planet Earth right now, you're traumatized.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I think that there's definitely a lot of beauty in this spiritual world that we live in. I think there are definitely some stuff that I'm like, I'm not sure about that. Over here. Right. Like, I'm just gonna, like, I'll hang out with my plants. You can come with us if you would like, but also I'm good. But I am just so grateful for the community that I have gathered with witches such as yourself, and I'm again so like just honored that you're here. And I'm probably saying that like way too much, but I really am. And you're just so sweet and like so pretty. Oh my gosh. No worries. I guess as we are sadly ending our little conversation here, we'll have to do this again, absolutely, because you're phenomenal, and I have learned just by speaking with you so much, and you have shared so much of your practice, and Grateful, seriously.
Thank you.
But I would love to hear about any of your upcoming projects or anything else that we can support you on. You know, obviously all of your social media down below, guys, go follow. But is there any like I know you have classes and stuff like that. Is there anything that you're launching? New music, maybe?
Yes, you already knew. Yes, there will be new music. I'm really excited. So there will be some releases around Halloween. And all, you know, in my normal fashion, they will be witchy songs, but there'll be great songs to play at your Halloween party or whatever the case may be. So I'm really excited about that. And then I do have I always have like classes and things that you can buy and purchase and participate in. I will be kicking off the Glamour Magic course one more time before the end of 2022. So just be kind of looking out for that. And then, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for right now. I'm just kind of like, right now I'm literally doing the Glamour Magic course as we're filming this. So, you know, it's like, I'm thinking about all the things and I can't even imagine it anymore on my plate.
I feel you so hard. I'm like traveling later this month and I'm trying to like prep content to go out, like, and I'm just like, oh no, I gotta do double things this weekend. Oh no.
Right, exactly.
So I feel you.
Have more freedom to, you know, enjoy life.
Yeah,
You know?
Absolutely. And I hope you are taking care of yourself through all of this hard work and just balancing that. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and teaching us so much about glamour magic and about your practice and everything. I am blown away. So guys, one more time, AJ the Glamour Witch. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.